Ball is caught by Bellinger. What a catch!
With a world heavyweight title lying in the balance.
You are now listening to Jocks and Geeks with J&P. Let's go.
Yo, welcome back. This is Jocks and Geeks with J&P. You can find us at J&P Podcast on Twitter and on Instagram. Once again, we're going to be covering everything from the gridiron to the squared circle, from the hardwood floor to the diamond. I'm one of the hosts of the Hard Hitting Podcast. I'm the P in the J&P. My name is Patrick. You can find me at AlienPStar88 on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Xbox Live, where you can catch me playing some Fortnite. Yes, that's Fortnite is back. We're gonna go ahead and talk a little bit about that, not too much. But the other host of this hard hitting podcast, he goes by Julio. He's the J in the J&P. Tell him who you are.
Hey yo, what's going on, masses? That's right, I am the J and the J&P, Julio that is. And as of right now, you can find me on J Heel on Twitter. We're still working on the rest of the social media. We're gonna get there. Shout out to Andy, the producer. And like Patrick said, let's get right into it. Huge weekend as we are going right into it. We're coming off a huge monumental game for the Nats, the Nationals' first ever World Series appearance, and a huge NFL weekend. So with that, let's not even waste any time, P. Let's get right into it. So I'm going to let you go first because you know what? We're going to cover it all. Just to give you a little bit of briefing real quick, just for the people out there, our fans of the show. First of all, Watson versus Mahomes lived up to the billing game of the weekend. Chiefs, Texas, those two young guys are the stuff. So we got everything from Chiefs, Texans, Packers, Lions, Eagles, Vikings, everything that went on in the NFL. But how could we even start covering the NFL this weekend without the debacle in New Jersey? So without further ado, you'd be surprised. What I got to say, but I do want you to start us off because, Patrick, I know last week you said it's not about being upset. It was more disappointment. But at this point, you have got to be more than just disappointed. What is going on with your Cowboys?
I am beyond pissed. It was a game that should have been won. It was a guaranteed win on paper. Do you realize the Cowboys led in passing, led in rushing, led in defense, led in everything on paper, and they still lost to the Jets? That is the worst feeling ever. And it's not bad because of the way that they played. It's bad because they had to come back. And you know what? Dallas has been known as being that third quarter, that second half team. And I understand that. But the thing is, against the Jets, you shouldn't have even been down 1 second against the Jets. Sam Darnold had mono. He came back from the dead from having mono for the last 3 weeks, came back, took over that team, and they beat Dallas. That's a huge win for the Jets. That was a horrible loss for Dallas. And now we got GoFundMe accounts saying, hey, let's go and fire Jason Garrett. You know what? At this point, it's not even Jason Garrett, like Jerry Jones said. It's not Jason Garrett. It's the whole team. But you know what? When a big corporation has issues, who do they go after first? They don't go after the little people. They go after the snake. And the head of the snake is going to be Jason Garrett. And you know what? The team right now, they're not playing together. They're not. They're rushing. I mean, the team is letting everyone run up the middle. It's ridiculous.
I agree. I've been, for the most part, pretty sustained on the opinion that Jason Garrett, with all his flaws, actually, he's been a great leader. He may not be a great X's and O's coach, but you have to give him one thing. In the last few years since he's been a coach, he actually takes it's drama free. There is no rest for the most part. There's a bunch of great players, with the exception of a few knuckleheads, obviously, including their star running back. And that's where I'm going to start. You're damn right I'm going to start there because that's where I always go. But this time, very justified. So, but you're right. It's not just Jason Garrett. It's all over the place. And what's concerning is Dak Prescott, before people would think I'm just gonna bang on Dak Prescott, it's actually not what I'm about to do. But Dak Prescott is not a good enough quarterback in this league to where he can overcome injuries on the offensive line. He is not an elite quarterback. He is not even a top tier quarterback or even a second tier quarterback. So if he's got
Subpar. Sub
two all pro linemen and Tyrone Smith and uh, Travis Frederick, if I'm not mistaken.
and
No,
Zach
no, that's
Martin.
not Travis. It's Zach Martin. If you got two all pros on the offensive line gone, then there's other key injuries. He is not good enough to overcome that. Even though, with that being said, you did hit on the nail. Playing an 0-4 Jets team with a returning quarterback who hadn't seen the field in weeks, coming off of mono, regardless of who is playing or isn't playing for Dallas, they should have gone in there and got that win. Never mind the fact that Dak Prescott isn't good enough. On top of that, he is getting pounded, and I mean pounded. Some of those hits, there was a couple where he should have been out of the game. He was taking a beating, headshots, rib shots, leg. I mean, everything that you could think about. That offensive line right now is not protecting him, regardless of how good he is or isn't he. He's not getting any time. But because of that, he also needs to be better. He's not throwing the ball. He's not letting it go. He's making too many mistakes. He's rushing. But also, he's not getting no help from his running back, the all pro one, the highest paid running back in the game, your boy Ezekiel Elliott, who continues to have got paid and looks like I don't know where he's at. His head is not here. And the bad thing is, Patrick, never mind the offense. The defense right now, you said one thing right now, everybody's just running up the middle on them. You got everybody who knows they can run on Dallas. On top of that, the Jets. We're talking about the Jets. Tony Romo said during the broadcast, if I'm not mistaken, they had only been in the red zone 4 times the entire season.
Yeah.
They stopped the Cowboys on 3rd and 1, and then 4th and 1, and then on the ensuing play when they got the ball, a 92-yard touchdown allowed by the Dallas secondary, Pat.
Yeah, no, and yeah, like I said, and I know you're the biggest Zeke hater, and we can have our own opinions, but Zeke did run for over 100 yards that game. I don't care what you say, he did work. He did put in work. He ran 28 times. He got 100. He got 105 yards. You know what? At that point, it might not seem like it's a good stat, but in my eyes, for him running over 100, hey, he actually did a workhorse. But let me throw the stat at you. The NFL teams are 9-1 since 1991 when they won time of possession, total yards, turnovers, pick up of first downs, convert at least 10 or more third downs, and the Cowboys lost against the Jets. That's the one in the 90-1. That's
And
ridiculous.
and once again, here's the thing. Here's my concern for Dallas. And again, I've been actually a Jason Garrett supporter. Here's my concern, though. Here's my concern. I think he's losing the locker room. There was very evident by the fact that everybody left him hanging. It's not
Yeah.
working. His philosophy is obviously falling on deaf ears. So this game Sunday night, how are you feeling going into this game? You got a 3-3 Philly team coming in against your boys at 3-3. This is for first place. Your defense was playing like garbage. Your offense who cannot protect that Prescott. And quite frankly, I'll give him that much. He's tough. If this was Tony Romo or anybody else, they'd probably be out. So how are you feeling going into the Sunday night matchup?
Honestly, it is a Sunday night game, which all eyes are on Dallas. Which it's a big game regardless. I don't care what you say. Records are everything, but in this rivalry, you're playing for the first place in the NFC East. It's a big time game for both of us. Yeah, you know what? Philadelphia did lose to Minnesota, and I mean I'm not gonna say it's a blowout, but they lost 38 to 20. But the thing is, in the total of last 3 games that we lost a total of 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals, 14 points. That is ridiculous. We shouldn't be losing these games at all.
Yo,
In
P,
rea-
Dallas needs this win more so than Philly, and you know it.
yes, yes. I mean, that's hands down. But the thing is, when it comes down to it right now, if Jason Garrett doesn't get this win, I'm saying Jerry Jones is saying, "Yo, pack up your stuff and you're out of
He's
here."
not going to fire him.
Hey,
and
there,
you're not
there,
gonna fire
there's,
him.
there's, there's rumors going around that if he doesn't win this
Not
game,
gonna happen.
hey, I mean, you might be saying that, but come Monday morning and we lose against Philadelphia, I don't see Jason Garrett being there. That's
I
just being
gotta see it
honest.
to believe it. That's just me. But you know what? Let's go ahead. You know what? Let's go ahead and put a prediction on it. Let's put a prediction on the game because we gotta cover the rest of the NFL. So what do you got? What do you got? Give me a prediction.
The on the Philly Dallas game, I, I
Yes.
I feel like Dallas is gonna win. They're gonna probably win maybe 28-21 or 28-27. There might be a situation where Philadelphia has to go for two. Dallas doesn't pull. Dallas stops them, and that's the game. But
Hate to say it, the bleeding doesn't stop, Pat. Hate to say it. Philadelphia comes into Dallas and rolls Dallas. They roll them 35-21. Not only that, but that just continues to add to the bleeding. And P, real quick, we got to move on. I gotta tell you, if you're right, good for you because that'll put you in first place. If I'm right, who knows when the bleeding's gonna stop? So what I want to go ahead and get right into, how could we not cover the game of the week? Chiefs, Texans, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson lived up to the billing. Granted, the Chiefs defense again, obviously, they showed they don't that's the concerning part. They don't really have a good defense. They obviously continue to give up. I think they gave up again over 500 total yards in offense to the Texans, and they continue to do so week in, week out. They have such a prolific offense that they, obviously stay in games, they win games, but alone, the quarterback matchup alone is what I'm just going to cover real quick. Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson is the quarterback marquee matchup of the next. If both guys stay healthy, these guys are your next Brady Manning rivalries. What I'm saying is they are Steph Curry. They are James Harden out there. They are must watch football on that field, Pat. What do you think?
yeah, no, I agree. That game was beyond expectations. Obviously, it was a high expectation. Deshaun Watson and the Texan offense was having problems prior to this game, but I mean, when the guy has a Madden coat on, the dude was on fire. They literally put up a show in Arrowhead, and they went in and stopped the Chiefs. That was one thing that everybody always had problems with. And you know what? Deshaun Watson could have thrown for 700 yards, and Pat Mahomes would have answered back with another 650. But when it comes down to it, right now, that was a wake up call, not just for the Chiefs. That was a wake up call for all the AFC because if Deshaun Watson can put up numbers like that, I mean, he has DeAndre Hopkins, and it feels like he never used him. The only reason why I know this is because I have Hopkins on my fantasy team, and he doesn't have any points. Like, it's ridiculous. But let's go ahead and talk about another surprise victory, which is going to be the 5-0 49ers and now 3-3 Rams. That was another surprising game that I saw, and I was like, the Rams look like garbage. Their
They look like
defense,
the Cowboys.
they really did. They look like they're exposed now. The Sean McVay experience is pretty much figured out.
It's
And
a combination of both. It's a combination if they are exposed a little bit, like you said, it's a combination of a lot of factors. But our biggest thing is we have to give credit where credit's due, and San Francisco is just nobody really took them seriously. That defense, they may have right now the best front seven, I should say, defensively right now in the NFC, maybe in all of football. They get after it. They get after the quarterback. Their secondary, Richard Sherman is back to playing lights out, like if he's back in Seattle.
yep,
Jimmy G seems to be getting healthier as the weeks go. Their offense is pretty good. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. That matchup coming up, San Francisco, Seattle, this coming week, that's gonna be another one. That's a heavyweight fight right there for that first place in that division. Once again, Pat, I want you to go over a little bit on what do you think about that division in general?
I mean, besides Arizona, you got three hard hitters. You got three real contenders. I mean, Jimmy G is a product of Belichick, and usually when people leave that system, everybody's like, yeah, the only reason why they were good is because look at the system they're in. He's the only one that's actually come out and it's like, it's not the system. I'm a great quarterback. Because look at, Matt Castle. He was sought after as soon as New England let him go. He was a sought after talent. Now look at him. He's probably coaching little league. He's pee wee football right now because nobody wants him. But like I said, that team, that division, if the Rams could get clicking again, and Seattle, I mean it's Seattle. You can't say anything wrong about them.
I think Russell Wilson's back.
Russell Wilson's probably the smartest quarterback in the NFL right now. He really knows how to take over games when they need to. And granted, Seattle lost I don't know how many key players on their defense, and they're still playing lights out.
They're back.
You can't dog
And
them out.
we don't sugarcoat anything on the JMP podcast, which is why my next point here, Roger Goodell, get your head out of your butt. Again, you cost a team a game by allowing the bad is not even the right word to use. This season has been by far so consistent with the crappy officiating from week one, and it continues. And again, last night, I don't care what people say, and I know for a fact I'm not the only one on this. This is my division now that I'm talking about. I mentioned a while back, Aaron Rodgers, as good as he is, boy, be quiet. You don't need no help. They give you the calls. You're the James Harden of the NFL. But in general, the team in general, they screwed the Lions last night. It was on national TV. So it was Monday night, ESPN. Everybody saw. I don't care what people say. Everybody knows it. From First Take to Undisputed to the JMP podcast, they screwed the Lions. Green Bay once again escapes with the win, which they shouldn't have won. They didn't earn. The officials gave that to them. They screwed the Lions, and in return has huge ramifications in our division because now the Golden Boy Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay sit at 5-1 on top of our division, and now, the Lions, who were actually coming in playing, a lot better than they normally play at this point in the season, now they're sitting there with 2 losses. Never mind that. Now my Bears have a bunch of pressure because the Vikings, like you mentioned a little while ago, the Vikings put it on Philly, spanked Philadelphia yesterday. They're sitting at 4-1. The Bears are getting Mitchell Trubisky back on Sunday, which is a huge boost for them. But again, coming off of that shoulder, still you're still not 100%. You're going to play against a red-hot New Orleans Saints team, whether you have Teddy Bridgewater under center or not. This is a must-win for the Bears because you cannot afford to fall at 3-3. Green Bay's already they're already they're kind of putting themselves too far ahead. So for the Bears, this is a must-win. Mitch needs to go ahead and already kind of rebound. I know he's banged up, but speaking of offenses that are struggling, we let go of Jordan Howard on the sole reason that we came in with the 2-headed monster. We drafted David Montgomery. We had Tariq Cohen, who is rushed and gave us a lot of hope. But yet here we are. We're at the bottom of every offensive category. We haven't, as a matter of fact, we probably have scored the least amount of points in the entire NFC, never mind our division. So this is a must-win for us. We can't afford to fall to 3-3. Green Bay's already that's the one thing. So, and then looking around, Pat, what do you think about the AFC? From what you saw, Houston, I know you mentioned a little bit, but you think, is New England going to lose it all this year?
You know what? This might be the upset of the week. The Jets over the Patriots, because that's who they got on Monday night. They're going to New Jersey. You know how those New Yorkers hate Tom Brady. So they might carry that motivation that they have from this last week winning against Dallas, and they're going to be like, hey, we beat America's team. Let's beat America's cheaters. Let's go ahead and do that.
They already did America's cheaters. You mean America's real team? Come on, Pat.
Come on. Look, Dallas is always going to have that title.
You just want them to beat them so that you could feel better about the Dallas loss to them because, come on, you know that there's no way Bill Belichick loses to the Jets.
But that's why I'm saying this is my upset of the week.
If it your upset of the week?
If it can happen, it can happen. And, honestly, the way that the Jets played last week, they didn't play like an 0-4 team. They really didn't. They played like a team like they were 4-0. And they were coming in red hot. That's how I looked at it. Because I mean, granted, Dallas had everything going on, going with them. The one thing is the Jets didn't show like they were a weak team. I mean, that's just my honest opinion. Now, so speaking of honest opinions, what is your honest opinion about Jalen Ramsey going to the Rams?
It's
Like,
a steal. It's a steal. I mean I know the right now the Rams are themselves struggling. They now fell to 3-3. And as you mentioned, that is a heavyweight division, man. You got three heavyweight teams with San Francisco and Seattle. And even though the Rams are 3-3, I cannot write them off yet. It's too early in the season. That's a steal. You added Jalen Ramsey, who might be the best cornerback in the league, to already a good defense with Aaron Donald, who may be considered the best defensive player, not better than Khalil Mack. But again, you really I was gonna call him St. Louis. The Rams, though, they have a shot here to get that boost that they needed to get right back into the division. Speaking of opinions of what I think, what is going on in Carolina? Have we seen? Are we seeing Cam lose his starting job? I mean, because this kid Kyle Allen, he looks like the real deal. He looks like, and this is not because we are shouting out to one of our followers on Twitter, but the thing is, in all honesty, though, yeah, what is going on in Carolina? Because this kid looks like the real deal. They're winning. Their offense looks good. It's one of those things, and I'm gonna ask you for your opinion, Pete, because this is one of those things, and I have air quotes because Cam Newton is air quote hurt right now, quote quote. But the healthier that he gets, and they keep on winning, I think you've been through this situation. You know where I'm alluding to a couple years ago with
yep.
Tony Romo, Dak Prescott. Give me your take on Carolina and the QB situation?
So to start it off, we're gonna go ahead and give a shout out. His name is Alex Raleigh. He's the one that asked us this question: Kyle Allen or Cam Newton? Honestly, at this point, do you really want this virus on your team? Because that's all he is. He tries to make it a show, a fashion show. You know what? You're not there to show off what kind of dress you're wearing or what kind of hat you have on, Mr. Newton. The thing is, you're expected to win games. That's the plain and simple. You're expected to win games. He might be hurt. He might not. At this point, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Kyle Allen should be your starter. No, if he comes back and they say, "Hey, Cam Newton's ready to go," who cares? He's winning us games. Christian McCaffrey has outdid himself again.
Best running back in the league right now.
He is the best running back, hands down. And you know what? He's not even just a running back. He's a utility player. He's catching balls on the fly. He's doing everything he can to win. And that's one thing Carolina needs right now. With that
Normally,
division, with that division that they have, they got Tampa Bay, they got Atlanta,
New
they got
Orleans.
the New Orleans. When that game comes around, when it's the Panthers in New Orleans, that's going to be a game to watch because if Drew Brees is back, are we going to see Carolina fold or are we going to see them blossom? That's going to be the true test because the next couple of games that Carolina has, I mean, they should be wins. But then again, Dallas should beat the Jets, but
Any given Sunday.
any
But
given Sunday.
and normally as Jay Heel, I would heel it up and go totally against you, but I can't even disagree with you on this one just because you're right. I think that Carolina, they'd be crazy to go back to Cam Newton at this point right now. You got to ride Kyle Allen. The guy is obviously mature above, his playing years right here. I know he's a rookie. He's leading the team. The guys are playing for him. He's playing at an elite level. You stick with them. Stick with them until the wheels fall off or until he shows you that he's hit a rookie wall or what have you. But like you said, Cam Newton is obviously more interested, in himself other than it's a team sport, especially in the NFL. So at this point, I agree. Stick with Kyle Allen. Shout out to our follower, as he mentioned. But
Alex
speaking of
Riley.
catching, Alex Riley, baby. Speaking of catching balls on the fly, before I give you your, your segment, baby, because I know you got to cover it, your geek segment with Pete. But before I do that, speaking of catching balls on the fly, let's transition a little bit into what happened tonight. We have our first World Series participant that we know the National League made it. We have.
So before we continue with that, I want to go ahead and end our segment with our top 5 teams. That's one thing that we always need to do is we need to talk about our top 5 teams. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with it right off the bat. I got New England at number 1, 6-0, San Francisco 5-0, the Saints 5-1, Seattle 5-1, and even though I don't want to say it, Green Bay at 5-1. So at
I
this,
pretty
go ahead.
much it's just a matter of the order. I agree. New England 6-0. Doesn't matter how they're doing it. They keep on winning. I'm going to put. You're right. San Francisco. You got to give them their due. At this point, undefeated, looking great. I'm going to put Seattle 3 ahead of New Orleans, but I'm still going to keep New Orleans right there at number 4. Even though they're 4-2, it's just I just like the way they're complete. I like their offense. I like their defense, and I hate it because I hate this team. As a matter of fact, I hate this city. But even though they're 4-2, I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Texans at number 5. So seeing that we have a huge weekend coming up, this is going into week 6. Actually, I'm sorry, Pat. We're going into week 7. So I like to know from you is what are we gonna wake up to Monday morning? What are gonna be the biggest headlines? I got a couple right off the back that I can think of. For one, who won? Like as you mentioned, who won the trade? Jaguars, Rams. Here's a couple. Jason Garrett. Is he staying? Is he going? And here's one that people aren't really like talking too much about it, but I got to bring it up. Baker Mayfield, man, with all that hype, and you ran your mouth in the offseason about how the Cleveland Browns are going to do this and they're going to do that. Your division's not even that strong this year. It's there for the taking. You're playing like garbage. Stats are there. You got less quarterbacks out playing you. What are the headlines? Mine. Here's my Monday morning headlines. Eagles, Rod Cowboys, add another nail in Garrett's coffin. Ramsey debuted, stellar debut. Baker vomits all over Cleveland again. Those are my headlines. What are yours, Pat?
Well, one of my headlines is going to be is Pat correct? Is Pat a fortune teller? And did the Jets beat the Patriots? Another one that I would say personally is the battle of the Bears and the Saints. Is the hangover from the bye week? Is it gonna help them or is it gonna derail the Bears against the Saints? So and then of course Ryan Tannehill taking over for Marcus Mariota. How does he fare against the Chargers? Those are those typical. Obviously, you hit the main ones that I want to talk about, but hey, those are the 3 I want to talk about afterwards. So, we're gonna segue a little bit. We did have a question from on YouTube from JP to the Max, and he wanted to know what are the thoughts of the XFL. So, I don't know. A lot of people didn't know. I actually was watching it a little bit this morning, and they had the draft this today. So they did draft players. They did everything. It's it's weird talking about the XFL without actually talking about Vince McMahon because of the fact that the XFL was known for being not your typical NFL experience. They try to bring the fans more involved, and that bombed. That personally bombed. So now they're bringing it back, and it's a serious sport now. They're actually doing combines. They're doing all this stuff, and now is it going to make it? Is it going to break it? Honestly, our thoughts on the situation is, you have teams from DC, you got teams from Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, New York, St. Louis, Seattle, and Tampa Bay. Those are big NFL cities, especially when you look at Dallas and Houston. Those are top NFL cities. You got the Dallas Cowboys, you got the Houston Texans. Now, do you feel like the fans are gonna stand behind it?
I think that this time around, it's a different feel, as you alluded to. The first time around, it was more of a circus act, as you said. It was more of a, you know, funny names on jerseys. You had
You
you're
hate me.
introducing, you got the Rock out in the middle of the field introducing, players and stuff like that. But this time around, from everything that I've been reading, is it's going to be, as you mentioned, a legit league to where you're doing, like you mentioned, drafts, combines. You have the TV contract you have in place, and from what I've been reading, Vince McMahon is if he sticks to it, where he's not bringing clowns in. Basically, he's not even gonna bring dudes with records, DUWIs, domestic abuse, none of that. So if that's actually true on that part, if Vince McMahon sticks to that, then That's gonna be good, and it's gonna be. And first of all, the time frame which they're playing, it's gonna be spring. This is a football crazy driven nation that I think the fans will get behind on the sole fact that the NFL is over. They still crave football. These are large football communities, as you mentioned. If it is legit, it's just hard for me to really get behind the league that's not the NFL only because we've seen them come and go, come and go. Just what we saw here in we live in San Antonio. We just personally witnessed this right offhand with the Alliance. They were actually, they were actually really good. I mean, not just because we live here, but no, they were actually really good. The XFL, though, it has a lot of legs this time around. So do I think the fans get behind it? I do. It's just a matter of what's going to happen.
All right, so to go over some of the teams that are in the XFL in the Western Conference, we got the Dallas Renegades, the Houston Roughnecks, the Los Angeles Wildcats, the Seattle Dragons. East Conference, we got the DC Defenders, the New York Guardians, the St. Louis Battlehawks, and the Tampa Bay Vipers. Honestly, at the beginning of this, everyone thought it was just a big joke. Like you were talking about the Alliance League of Football or the AAF, however you want to call it. San Antonio had one of the biggest fan bases, and I wouldn't be surprised if the XFL continued and they bring a team to San Antonio because that fan base here in San Antonio is hungry for some kind of sports, and we were there supporting them from day one until they collapsed. So, with my
another reason. And real quickly, I know I have to because it's going to skip my mind. You forget I'm the old man of the show. But you mentioned Dallas, and you mentioned the XFL, and you mentioned the legitimacy of the league this time around. One of the reasons why it's definitely got a more legit feeling, right here in Dallas, can you believe it that what are the Dallas team again?
Dallas Roughnecks?
The Dallas
No,
Roughnecks.
no, Dallas Renegades, sorry.
The Renegades. Can you believe here's something for you. Put this on your plate, Patrick. Put this on your little pipe that you're smoking and smoke this. Can you believe that the best coach in the Dallas Fort Worth area metroplex is not in the NFL coach? Do you know who's coaching that Dallas team?
Bob
Stoops. Can you
from
believe that the
Oklahoma.
best coach in that area is Bob Stoops of the XFL? That's legitimate right there, boy.
And you know what else is crazy? June Jones is actually taking over as the head coach at Houston. Right there, June Jones. And then we got Jim Zorn in Seattle. Come on, dude. You got top-rated coaches in their positions, and they're going to the XFL. Honestly, I can see this league going further. I can see them being a stepping stone to the NFL for players that didn't have a chance in the NFL. You got Landry Jones, who's going to be the head quarterback with the Dallas Renegades. So it's gonna be interesting to watch. I'm excited. I know a lot of people are excited about it because this is actually a legitimate. This is a legitimate franchise league, if you want to say, because they actually took their time. They did the combine. They did a draft today, and it's like I said. I'm excited. I don't know how excited you are. And the closer that we get to the XFL, this is going to be something that we're going to have to pick our teams. We're going to have to pick them, and we're going to have to stand behind them. So on that note, since we did answer that, JP to the max, thank you for your question. Thank you, Alex Raleigh, for the question. We're going to have to end it on this note. This is the J&P podcast. I'm the P in the J&P. You can find me at AlienPStar88 on Twitter, Instagram, Xbox Live. Also, catch us on Twitter at JNP Podcast. If you have any questions, we'll answer them for you. And Jay, go ahead and take us out.
Hey, yo, once again, shout out to Andy the Great, because none of this is possible without Andy the Great producing behind the scenes. So as P mentioned, huge weekend coming up. So we're definitely going to go ahead and see who's right, who was wrong between the J and the P with our NFL headlines. So with that being said, Keep us following us. Tell your friends, tell your parents, tell everybody you know. Other than that, say goodbye to the bad guy. We out.
Red Rock, yeah, yeah.